is Dr. Neil Boumpani, and welcome to my channel, yourchildseducation.com, where I urge parents to get their students out of the public schools as quickly as possible. Today I'm going to focus on the failure of the educational programs of the last 30 years by looking at the failure of the Baltimore public schools. First, as I always do, I ask people not to take part in condemnation before investigation. If you simply turn off an idea because it does not fit your ideological, political, or spiritual views, you're part of the problem. If we can't talk and listen to each other, you'll continue to see an America divided. If we look at the people that have been the product of our public schools over the last 10 or 15 years, and we hear how adamant they are about some of their extreme views, we find we can't talk to them. They'll always come back with their stock answers and talking points. Challenge them with facts, and they simply won't accept the facts. Well, today we're looking at the revelations of the failures of the Baltimore public schools. Let's start by saying this is not isolated to Baltimore. Schools all over the country are failing, and their failures are being covered up. So let's talk about Baltimore. A recent headline stated that among 23 public schools in Baltimore, not one student is at grade level in math. None. 0%. So why is this? Let's put aside some rumors here. Some might say that this can be blamed on the effects of critical race theory. Math, according to some CRT supporters, is inherently racist. So does this prove that math is racist, or does it show that students are buying into CRT and deciding math is not important? Well, considering that the list of 23 schools includes 10 high schools, truth of the matter is that this has been going on for at least 12 years, even before CRT took hold. Also, the Baltimore public schools are not totally minority, so let's put that to rest. CRT is the wrong solution to the problem, but that is a discussion for another time. The complete list of Baltimore's failing schools include 10 high schools, 8 elementary schools, 3 middle high schools, 2 elementary middle schools. These schools include 2,000 students, not one of which are at grade level in math. In addition to these 23 schools, there were another 20 schools where only 1 or 2 students in each school were at grade level in math. Let's look at one of the failing high schools. Patterson High School was one of the schools where 0% of students were proficient in math. It is interesting that the high school graduation rate is still 95%. How difficult do you think it is to graduate from Patterson High? Those students who come from homes below the poverty level represent 66% of the school population. There are those who believe that this is the reason for the low grades. However, over 30% are above the poverty level, and they have done no better. The report does not examine other factors like school discipline, which had been helpful to know, but the results speak for themselves. 0%. Nobody is learning math there. Of course, everyone in Maryland, from the residents of Baltimore to the governor of Maryland, is shocked. You know who was not shocked? The teachers, many like me, who saw this coming for years. I am sure that there were teachers in Baltimore who knew this and even complained about it. After all, it was just last year in 2022 that an audit discovered that Baltimore high schools changed over 12,500 grades from failing to passing. Don't let this surprise you. This is being done everywhere, from elementary schools even to colleges. Let's talk about grade changes. Under No Child Left Behind, schools with high percentages of failures risk being taken over by the state. This means administrators and maybe even some teachers lose their jobs. The administrators fear this the most because they fear losing their inflated salaries. Nobody should be surprised to find out that when this audit was being done, it was a real challenge for those performing the audit. They had to work harder to get through the barriers the school put up. Administrators and teachers were afraid to answer questions in fear of losing their jobs. Still, eventually people spoke up. The staff at one high school told auditors that the district administrators advised them that no student should have a final numerical grade of 58 or 59, and that they were instructed to change those grades to a 60 or D-. Of course, when confronted with this fact, the principal of that school placed the blame right back on the teachers. He explained that no grades are changed unless a teacher changes them. How about that? A teacher fears reprisal from the administration if grades are not changed. Then, when the truth comes to light, the administrator throws the teacher under the bus, and one wonders why teachers are leaving education. Let's look at one of the county's middle schools. A leaked text from one of the teachers or staff of Calverton Middle School is quite eye-opening. The principal of Calverton Middle School, Marcia Cooper, sent the following text to her teachers. And you could read it here, but good morning, people. The secretary, whose name is redacted, is printing report cards, so finally you can get those cumulative averages, finished. Please double-check end-of-year averages and make sure that they are 60 and above, except for our 4 retention candidates, 2 elementary and 2 grade 7. If you find any grade averages below 60, please have, again, the secretary's name is redacted, correct and give me a copy of those student names. Thank you. An anonymous teacher at Calverton told a local news reporter the following. I was frustrated as a teacher. We are public servants, and when we see things like grade changing, that's self-serving. That's not helping the kids. Well, this shows that teachers still care, even if those above them do not. So why are the Baltimore schools so bad? What is even more important, what will be done about it? Will the principals keep their high-paying jobs? What about the superintendent? Well, there may be some shake-ups, but I doubt anyone will lose a paycheck. In my experience, people change titles and may be moved around, but the players remain the same. To be honest about all this, I am somewhat surprised that these reports were even published. However, I would bet that within 6 months this is forgotten in the media. I believe that those who have created the mess that is public education will never admit that their policies have contributed to this. They will find a scapegoat somewhere. As you read the articles examining the failures of our schools, you'll hear the usual excuses, blame, and rhetoric. Those who have been steering us down the path to destruction refuse to admit they have had any part in causing this mess. Well, I have to shout out to Baltimore one thing. You are not alone. You may be at the bottom of the barrel, but you're not alone. Our schools are failing all over the United States. The problems at this point may be insurmountable. I believe that there are answers, but our divided country and government will never agree to even try. I contend that education may be like Area 51. Presidents and high officials in Congress may have known about what goes on there, but they can't discuss it. Why don't any of our candidates running for public office talk about fixing public education? After all, an educated society can make better choices for themselves and be less reliant on government. Could it be that there are those who want people to be more reliant on government? We call these people Marxist, and they permeate our colleges and schools. So, are there answers? If there are any real answers, they are not forthcoming. The problem with our society as a whole is that people are making the most important decisions about the future of our country, and they're making these decisions solely from an ideological standpoint. What they believe shuts the door on any possible solutions that do not fit their ideology. If people would abandon their ideologies and look at the problems with open minds, we might actually find some solutions. I believe there are such people, but they're not heard. The educational leaders in government and the researchers in higher education may be true believers in their ideologies, and they are not going to budge. They will never accept any idea that might possibly come from the other side. Even possible solutions that might be a blend of ideas will never be acceptable to them. They are bound and determined that education will be their way regardless of the outcome. They'll continue to push programs that have not worked and may never work, because their ideology, of course, in essence, is their religion. They have to serve their god of Marxism. Even in matters of faith, their ideology will insist that any religious beliefs bend to their views, regardless of what the religion has believed for centuries or what their holy scriptures may say in that religion. But that's an argument for another day. There are no easy answers to the problem. It is simply not as simple as curriculum changes. As I have stated over and over, the educational programs of the past 30 years have helped get us into this point. Programs like George W. Bush, No Child Left Behind, paved the way for students to get a diploma without doing much of anything, We just proved that in Baltimore, did we not? There are even state colleges that are creating majors to allow students to do as little as possible and still get a degree. Now, there are other factors, though, that pertains to this failure. I would contend that the breakdown of the family is also a large part of the problem. Today, if one states historical fact that the family unit is the bedrock of a strong society, and the breakdown of family leads to society's doom, that person is labeled as some kind of hater. We have so many young people who are used to having children out of wedlock without any means of support that stopping this thing is maybe next to impossible. We have become a society of, I must have my rights, without considering the individual's responsibilities. They have their rights, but don't ask them about the responsibilities. We have groups like Black Lives Matter calling for an end to the nuclear family. Even suggesting family breakdown issue is an issue will get you branded a racist. Well, I am not sorry to say that. If more families stayed together for the sake of the children and the future of a free society, we would see fewer of these problems. Call me what you like, but I have worked with many minority students over the years, and I believe that many of them have been denied the chance at better lives because of the educational programs that do not allow them to succeed. More about that in a future article. So please, if you have your child in the public schools, get them out as soon as possible. Try to homeschool them if you can. Look into ways of charter schools, private schools, home schools, whatever you can do. Now, if you can't afford that, I suggest you find ways of supplementing the child's education and making sure you talk to your children every day about what they're learning in school so you could help them unlearn the silliness that goes on in today's education. Now, these students can't do math, but they probably could tell you how many genders there are, at least today. Tomorrow there'll be 4 or 5 more or less. Oh, if you like my programs and articles, videos, please subscribe, like, ring the bell, and visit my website at www.yourchildseducation.com. Thank you.